If you're used to playing your old school rock hi-hats, you might not be fully prepared for the way you have to play when you get a stack. Not many people know this, but it's actually illegal in 16 states to play those tired old funk beats on a stack. No, bro, I swear. Lawyers. Okay, well, if it's not legally mandated, it should be. $500 fine, 50 years in prison. But I have good news. If you're advanced enough to be ordering a stack, and let's face it, beginners do not fantasize over stacks. Stacks are a checked out Chris Dave trying to get my girl back move. Or at least a trying to inspire my girl to do the dishes move. So as long as you pass the aptitude test Zildjian requires to order one of their stacks. Come on, lawyers. Anyway, 3 legally almost mandated beats for once you order that stack, / beats that'll hopefully inspire her to do the dishes, or maybe take out her credit card the next time you're shopping for groceries. Hey, I'm not 22 anymore. The good news is she's not constantly leaving and coming back again. The bad news is, anyway, stay tuned. Guys, those of you familiar with the channel know this already. Gonna throw a lot of beats at you, beats you do not need to transcribe on your own. We've made you a workbook, we've transcribed them for you. You can get that for free by clicking the link below the player. That's it, that's all I wanted to say. Now let's go on to the first legally mandated stack beat. So we're gonna start in a more advanced place for this lesson, but if you're the type of person who's experimenting on a stack, you're probably okay with that. So let's break down the first beat. 2, 3. All right, let's slow that down and break that down. So imagine you're just playing a straight beat. 3, 4. Step 2 is you're gonna do this little innovation. 2, 3. For stage 3, we're gonna add a couple grace notes to it. So, 2, 3. Next, we're gonna add grace notes to the next part of it. 2, 3. Finally, we're gonna catch all those grace notes with the kick. 2, 3. And that's the first beat. So that's a little beat I've been playing with for a hot minute. It does that duck under thing with the hats, which again, if you're ordering stacks, you probably already know how to do. But now let's go on to one that leverages this offbeat quarter note triplet thing, which you don't really need to know what it is in order to do it. Let's watch. The second beat is with this offset quarter note triplet thing I've talked about before. It's a little more useful to just think about what to play when than really to theorize too much about it. Like the first one, I'll play the complete beat first and then we'll step our way into it. 2, 3. So the most basic version of this is just going to be like this. 2, 3. Next, we're gonna fill up almost all the sextuplets that aren't taken either by the accents on the hat or the rim shot on the snare drum. Check it out. 2, 3. Finally, we're going to add a kick double in one of those spots. So we're going to do a kick double before the third of the 3 hat accents. Right there. So I'll show you what that sounds like. 2, 3. And that's the second of the 2 beats. But stay tuned because when we come back, we've got a surprise. Okay, and in the last segment of the lesson, we're going to be looking at the thing the kids are doing, which is moving the downbeat itself to the stack. Especially if it's not only a hi-hat stack, but it's one of those newfangled cymbal stacks that just sits on the stand and sounds like a hand clap. But before we get there, little reminder, all the beats in this lesson will be transcribed for you. You don't need to transcribe them yourself. And that transcription is FRLL free. Just click below the player, enter your email address in on the next page to get it. That's it. Now on to the last bit of the lesson. So now let's talk about a little innovation all the kids are doing. And by the way, after all the flack I caught for the flurries lesson, I don't mean to say that just because all the kids are doing something, you have to do it. My whole thing is I actually like to get into this stuff from first principles. So I'm kind of showing you how to construct these beats on your own so you're not just ripping people off. On the other hand, there are innovations that great drummers make that change the genre, which should be incorporated if we want to sound contemporary. That's it. That's all I'm trying to say. And one of those innovations is using the stack or using the aspirated hats as your snare drum surface. So instead of, you're literally playing. And of course, some people have alternate hats. Instead of alternate hats, I'm just playing on the rim because I'm lazy. I don't want to set up 2 sets of hats. So there are a couple ways you can play with this. One of them is just to take a regular beat you do and move things to different surfaces. So can do that kind of thing. That's really the basis for all of this. But let's apply this orchestration to our mandatory legal stack beats and we'll see a little bit of funkiness. So we're going to start with the second one first because it's a little easier to do. So recall the second one is 2, 3. Okay, so how do we reorchestrate this? Super simple. Keep all of the ghost notes on the snare. Move the lead hand to another surface, ideally another hat stack, but in this case, it's just my rack tom rim. And put your rim shot on your stack. So that'll sound like this. 2, 3. So that's what that sounds like. Now let's take our first beat that we learned, which remember was this. It's going to be a little bit more difficult, but it's going to sound super funky. There are 2 ways you can do this. One of them is just to keep all the ghost notes that would have been on the snare drum. So that would just be 2, 3. The other is to move both hands to the rim, or if you're less cheap and less lazy than I am, your alternate hats, which would sound like this. 2, 3. That's how you get the gig. So dudes, hope you enjoyed this one. It sure was a lot of fun to teach. And little public service message. This lesson is brought to you by me, the 80/20 drummer. You may be wondering, how do I have time to do this all the time? How do I monetize this? And the answer is selling drugs. Just kidding. I don't. The actual answer is I sell courses. That's right, I'm a shill. I shill my courses. But they tell me my courses have helped people. And that's because when I was younger, you get a little violin music. When I was younger, I wasn't always this way. I used to not feel very good about my playing. I used to not get called back for gigs and wonder why. I used to wish my girl would come back. No, that wasn't me. That was Zach Bruce. Anyway, as I started to dig into how to make myself better, I discovered 3 things that hardly anybody was talking about. They weren't chops, they weren't coordination, but there are 3 things that almost all great drummers have in common, which hardly any of the beginner and intermediate drummers have, and realized that by focusing on those things first, I could raise my level quicker. And those are the things I teach to you in the 80/20 coaching course, which is like 6 months to a year of studying with me for around the price of a single lesson. You may be wondering, what's the catch? The catch is we only open it up a couple times a year, and it's only available to people on my mailing list. You may be wondering, how do we get on the mailing list? Well, 2 birds with 1 stone. If you'd like the transcription for this lesson, you can click below, get that transcription, and you'll also be on the mailing list. You can unsubscribe anytime. You're not required to buy anything. It'll just let you know the next time we open that course up, in case you're interested. Dudes, it's been real. Always have a lot of fun doing these. See you again real soon in another lesson of the week. Yay, we outran our battery depletion. Yes! Enjoy it!